kind of cover that so it's not people's faces. The next, I'm not going to do a report on the goals in their entirety. Instead, I'm going to hand, because there's a lot of information here, I'm going to hand you a document and go over some of the features on what we're still waiting for. So this is a preliminary report on district goals because there was an inquiry about where are we on these goals. These are the goals that the board worked in conjunction with the administration and the leadership council in developing for this year. And this will show you action steps and specific outcomes that we've had on these goals during the year. But I can't give you a finalized document because we're waiting for the following items that are bullet points on the memo that I've just put on top of the document. And many of our main goals, we put very specific targets or benchmarks for. And they're related to graduation rate, they're related to how we're doing on meets and exceeds on the PSAE and AYP standards. And so those items aren't available quite yet. But I can tell you what some of our, you can look, and I've given you information that where we are in our preliminary what we can tell from the ACT that the kids took on the Prairie State. So the first thing is, just so you're aware, and the public will do, Dr. Skinkis and I will do more to communicate this to the public, but the graduation rate is no longer calculated by the individual schools. It's pulled automatically through the student information system. The school board is doing this as a part of a federal mandate that was started in 2008 to nationalize the way we report graduation rates so it's not different by state. And so that's going to have some significant changes for the state of Illinois. One change will be, for instance, that it's you look at your cohorts of kids who started together as freshmen. So these kids that just went out, they started as freshmen together in 2007, and then we're going to look at how they nationally want us to calculate that. And in other words, we used to be able, we could only count kids that were extended beyond graduation up to the end of June. We now can go a little further into July, but we cannot count students. We have to count any special education student who didn't finish up by the end of that year. So there are going to be changes, and we'll put out information about that. The state superintendent has been just sending things to schools now saying, you're going to need to start communicating with people. So the graduation rate will be pulled automatically by the state, and we'll be informed in late September or early October of what that rate will be. So
you mean to tell me we can't figure it out ourselves? We have to wait for the state and
you can kind of figure it out, but you have a window where you have to reset your data and they have to approve. You can do an unofficial, but they're going to they're doing it now, and it's part of your e-school report card. So
is our unofficial graduation rate for this year in line with what we expected?
I mean, calculating the way we've always done it for years, yes.
Okay.
This rate is going to look lower for us because we didn't count the special education students who didn't finish as not, against us, and now they will, so, and there are differences like that.
Okay.
So the rates for some states are going to look like they're lower than they've been in the past.
Okay.
All right.
Pam, do you feel that? When do you feel you'll have complete information?
The PSAE scores were also delayed a little bit because of the flooding down in southern Illinois, and so we're at about a 2-week lag for that. So probably not until September or October will all of the data be finalized on the report cards this year.
But if we want to schedule in September goals like we did with the department heads and administration and the board to what we want to do for this upcoming school year. Will we have some of this information to be able to help us?
Yes, I gave you a lot of information that can help you see the progress we've made, even though you don't have it in the form we expect that we put down in the goal sheet. So in other words, I can tell you the progress our students have made on their ACT English scores for our regular testers and show you the growth through all the interventions we did this year, but it's not going to be how many meet or exceeds according to the AYP standards. So it'll be a different measure than what we have in the goal, but it'll show that we have demonstrated progress and growth through what we did during the year. Does that make sense? you'll have enough to go on here to say, we want you to continue on this path, we want you to concentrate on this area more.
So based on the information provided, this should provide the board with enough background information of the types of strategies Pam's using with her building staff to achieve the goals, and maybe at the September committee of the whole meeting, a brief, concise report on final findings and data would bring a conclusion to this and open us to the next, this 11-12 school year, where we can start aligning our resources and leadership towards the new goals and objectives.
Certainly.
Okay. Any questions for Pam on this?
I have a couple of
Read it
questions,
first.
probably for the administration, because we're new. What is the cycle for your goals? You know, when are they approved? And then at what point do you kind of end that year? And probably the report out wouldn't be right then, but it's maybe a month or so
I think
afterwards.
that's one of the primary things that's on the top of my agenda for the retreat.
Okay.
Because I would like to be able to, you know, meet with Pam and Tim, like an initial review somewhere in October, November, again after the first of the year and again at the end of the year. So I would like to have an idea of some general district goals, and from there establish building level goals with Pam that she can then implement with her department chairs and her administrators, as well as with Tim.
When do we do these? We didn't finalize these till the spring, am I right?
It was at the beginning of the second semester, I think, when we finally
Yeah.
finished them, and they went through many drafts and conversations, and so,
And
even though we were working on, we were moving forward, they were not finalized.
Yeah, so we just started that last year.
Yes.
All right, when do we have a meeting with the administration board and the department heads? Dave, when do we have that? Remember, you weren't there?
I think moving forward, I think
It's
one thing.
September, yeah.
One thing that will help is if we can establish one page of district goals, and from there, with my leadership and with Pam's leadership, establish performance objectives to help achieve those district goals, and let Pam then delegate those out to her department chairs and other building administrators. So that basically what we should be reporting out back to the Board of Education is what performance objectives did we come up with as a leadership team to meet district goals, and then regular performance on how we're doing to achieve the district goals for the board.
Well, almost the development of a dashboard that can be done on a monthly basis.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
all right, any other questions for Pam?
I have
Yes.
two.
I'm
Go
sorry, I
on.
didn't.
You can go first.
All right, go ahead, Paul.
Pam, does the red mean this is what you have accomplished, or does it mean this is what you intend to accomplish?
We've done all these things.
All right, any more questions for him?
No.
Pam?
I have two comments. I know you keep giving us a lot of information, but if goals are important to track, we should track them, and we should have the information before the meetings. This is 6 pages or 8 pages. To read it, digest it a little, and we could talk about it. Just make a general comment. We keep getting tons of information a day, two, at the meeting to read, and, you know, I'm not comfortable preparing for meetings. And again, Pam, I know nobody asked you to do it before, we just asked, but this is a lot of information to digest, and I don't think we should be digesting it while we're sitting here.
And I don't think that we're asked to do that. I think that, as Pam stated before, this is just a preliminary report, that her final report will probably come in September, October.
Right.
But
I think
my
that
point
this
is
is
if
a
you're-
guide that we should look at and come back with questions. So, and I agree with you. You cannot digest this by just being handed out to you. What I would say is use this preliminary report to be able to generate questions or come up with anything.
Man, I was
And we can
making-
put it back onto the August agenda meeting to be able to put that on there. What I'm saying right now is even Pam realizes that we're not looking to be able to digest this and be able to comprehend what she's saying. I like what she's done, and I think that she's, you know, the comment was asked, what is the status of the school and district goals? And I think that she's done that, but she's also said too that finalization won't occur until September, October. But for this as a point to review, and we're not going to discuss this tonight and be able to answer that, it would be unfeasible to even do this right now. So that's what I'm saying.
Matt,
So-
you missed my point, so I'll try to make it again. And please, you don't have to explain that. My point is a general. We keep getting all kinds of information. A day or two are handed out at the meetings, and I would like to make a request, or whatever people want, that we try to get information earlier and have a time to look at it. And
So
if that
what
wasn't
would
the
you-
intent here,
Well, Can you
that's
give us some
fine.
examples of this? Is this one of them, or what's another one?
This is one, we're going to talk about the athletic code of conduct. We got that on Friday. Now it's on the agenda. I mean, that was 16 pages. We get all kinds of things that were
So,
put
but
on the
hold on, wait,
agenda.
give me more examples. The pay to participate and the outside funding for that, I apologize for that because I developed it the Sunday before we had our meeting.
Okay, well,
I
there's
think that
three
the
in
board packet that
2
we gave,
meetings.
you know what I mean? The board pack we gave is stuff we're gonna discuss and talk about.
I'm
The
voicing my
athletic-
opinion,
But hold on,
Matt.
wait, I just wanna say something right now. I think our staff is doing a damn good job here.
I'm agreeing
And
with that.
What I'm saying right now is, with Pam giving us this, or even with the athletic handbook, the athletic handbook was given to Dave, am I right, Art? Prior to this, that was supposed to be reviewed by the board and everything else. So that's the reason why it was put on as old business. Now, it's a 16-page report, which is not, you know, it's not looking at the whole student handbook. So what I'm saying right now is, there are going to be some bumps in the road, especially when we're trying to accomplish a lot at the beginning of a school year. And we will take your comments in and make sure that it doesn't happen. But there are going to be times when it will happen, especially when we're jammed with timelines that we have right now.
The second question is a question. Following up on Laura's, and again, it just happened to jump on. On 1D, there's a measure that says increase AP scores by 4% from 65 to 69. The response has achieved 64% pass rate, which to me means we didn't meet the goal.
We didn't meet the goal.
And-
We just got
And also,
that
how'd you
report.
find out the results
The AP
aren't out?
scores were just posted
Oh,
a few
okay.
days ago,
All right.
What page are you in?
within days. It
I don't know,
just
there's
came
no
out. So
page
that one I
numbers.
was
It's
able
on
to.
one
Second.
that one I
1C,
was able to
1D,
give you.
1E?
Yeah.
But I mean, if we have goals and it says increase by 4% from 65 to 69, and we went down, it should say we didn't meet the goal.
Right.
We went down instead of, so it's clear what, in my mind,
Yeah.
what we did.
I think one thing going forward, and I think will help with your concerns, Tim, we should try to, as we build the agenda now, moving forward, so that when we provide you information, that should start out as new business, and we shouldn't take action on it until a month later in old business, so that there's plenty of time for discussion between the committees, the advisory committees, as well as time for you to have enough time to review. Secondly, I think one thing this board needs to recognize moving forward, when the agenda is finalized on Wednesday or Thursday, and the board packet's put together Friday to send out to you, the building administration does not have enough time to generate all the information that you're going to see within that 24 to 36 hour window. So I think one thing that I started to talk with Pam about today, and her detail-oriented characteristics and thoroughness prepared this report, but I think what we have to create for the board is concise reports that show beginning, middle, and ends, and where we are and where we need resources or policies to help support that. And then the board will have to rely on me as a superintendent to be checking on the daily activities, so that you don't have to, as a board, review 8 pages of what daily activities are going on at the building level. That should be the superintendent overseeing the principal to make sure those 8 pages are going on. And Pam and I should report out to you that here's the goals you set. We did, and just like you said, Tim, hey, we did not meet this goal. We came in at this number. You know, because if you start trying to read through 6 or 8 pages, you might interpret that report one way, another board member might interpret it the other, and that might confuse us more than make us more efficient.
And I think that the dashboard would help us, to give us at least a view of where we're moving towards. And also identify maybe where there's areas that it helps you, but also helps us, the board and the community, to know, hey, this is an area where we might need to tweak and might be able to do that. So.
Or like Laura was mentioning, a schedule where it's always going to happen at this time for this report or that report, so that there is time to prepare it and time to get it to you in advance. So,
Gotcha.
yeah,
I'd like
And
to
Pam,
make
don't
a,
get the wrong impression.
no,
I think
I
you do a
understood
lot
you.
of
I
good
didn't-
work.
yeah.
It just,
you know.
I think that if, for us to do a lot of good work, we need a little more time to digest some of the things that are, in my opinion. That's all the point I'm trying to make.
Laura?
I'd like to make a comment too, because the board meeting is our meeting, and as board members, we're learning to work together. I'd also like to say, that when the information comes late like that, you know, I want to agree so one board member doesn't feel like they're sticking out. We read this and we end up micromanaging and do staff work because we don't have the time to really look at it and call and get good questions. And so I think as board members, if we think this is too soon, we should just say, you know, we can't make decisions on this, we're going to table it to next month, and we have to work with each other and say, we don't have enough information, didn't have time to ask questions. And Kevin, I don't think we need to take business on something that happened 48 hours ago. I think maybe even if you cut it off a week before the board meeting and say, you can discuss what happened. When we prepare agendas at our work, the cutoff date is 1 month prior, so that all the board members have adequate time to make calls, do their due diligence, and that's the business they discuss, so.
But this, is this an, I don't believe this is an action event, this is just a reporting out anyway.
It's just
Yeah.
reporting, that's all it is.
This is a report and a handout.
That's why I just wanted, I
Right,
didn't
but
have-
maybe you report it out next month, and so
Sure, that's-
rather
yeah.
than giving us something that's not complete, and then we're looking at, we don't know what to do, and then we're doing staff work, and
I
so.
could definitely have the, my administration report out and have that included in the packet, but then we would have to get it, like what you're saying. So if when you sent the email, hey, I'd like to see an update on the webpage and some of the goals, then that would probably first come to us in the August meeting and give, you know, 3 or 4 weeks for us to prepare it and get the information to you.
Or it could be just a handout like Pam did, saying, here, I'm just going to go over briefly what it was. We're not going to go through it tonight. But if you want to discuss it, we can put it on the agenda for August. So it's,
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you think this oddly, but 4 years ago, we used to get a weekly update, and then we had a board packet before the board, so, I
But you
mean.
get a board packet before the board on Friday.
Right, but there was weekly updates, just kind of like a memo that FYI, this is coming, you'll see it in 3-4 weeks. So getting everything, you know, 2 days before a meeting, that's not how it always was. There was a lot more communication.
Well, I know that for the last 2 years, that's how it's been for us.
Well, that's not how
So-
it has been traditionally.
Can I say something?
Sure, John.
I think both of you guys are right. If we just look at this as a preliminary information, I totally agree with Tim that I don't want to get this stuff and expect to read it like even 3 days before. I'd rather get it a month before, know I'm going to talk about it in a month so I can have a month to look at it and not feel pressured to read, you know, 500 pages of stuff. So, I mean, I agree with both what you're saying.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just to add, I kind of agree with some of the timing, and that's why 2 years ago, we used to get the paid bills sometime late on Friday to approve them on the next Tuesday. And so what I had asked is that we have time to review and ask questions, that we get as much of the paid bills the Friday before, so 10 days before the meeting, and that if they had to give us anything additional for the extra week of time, they could give that to us the Friday before the meeting. But then that was a similar timing type issue where we could get it in time, because not everyone has the weekend to review everything.
And that's what, when Kevin and me talked about it with Mike's before, we talked about, Mike brought it up before, was that from the board meetings going forward is we will have bills and minutes the Friday, so where you get your board packet on a Friday, you get it, the bills and minutes emailed to you the previous Friday.
That's good.
So.
Thank you.
Now, Laura, if you've got a problem with your server or working with getting email and opening up folders, let us know and we can try to work with.
No, like we said, if the body of the email says what is attached, that's appropriate protocol to say, please find the following attachments. And if they're not there, I will call.
No, here's what I'm saying right now, is you said before in the previous meeting that you couldn't open it, so that's when we wanted to make sure, if you can't, then we can.
No, what I said the previous meeting, I didn't even know they existed.
Okay.